Hi, this is Anthony Parent. Welcome to the IRSMedic Podcast. Today is July 12th, 2022, and you are watching episode 5 of our weekly US Expat podcast. Our subject matter, the administrative brutality of the U.S. government with a focus on the abuses of its worldwide taxation. I'm tax attorney Anthony Parent of IRSMedic. Join me and our longtime special guest, the brilliant John Richardson, practicing attorney and constitutional scholar extraordinaire, along with the equally brilliant Keith Redmond, perhaps just as brilliant, but truly an awesome expatriation consultant and a trusted voice for the Americans around the globe. Our job today, like every other day, is to tell you the reality on the ground, not some BS of partisan nonsense. Speaking of which, today we're going to be discussing a meeting that occurred on July 7th, 2022, and you'll see the link in the description below. And let me give you the background for this. From CNBC, some of Manhattan's wealthy Democrats are being forced to pick sides between Representatives Jerry Nadler and Carolyn Maloney, two of the party's most powerful House lawmakers, in a primary race that is pitting the incumbents against each other in the city's newly redrawn 12th district. Lawmakers, along longtime colleagues in the House, now have to fight each other to save their seats after a court ordered New York's 12th congressional district to be withdrawn, and now encompasses much of Nadler's old district on the Upper West Side and Maloney's on the Upper East Side. Additionally, Democrat Suraj Patel, who worked on President Barack Obama's presidential campaigns in his White House and has earned the endorsement of the former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang, he has entered the race, claiming that both incumbents are just serving their wealthy donors who are currently fighting over them. So with that, how did that meeting go, guys? Keith, what'd you say? Did you watch it, Keith?
I finally was able to watch it. Wow. And I thought it was interesting. And what I mean by that is I don't feel that the essence of the problem of Americans overseas, and accidental Americans for that matter, anyone that's adversely affected by the U.S. tax code outside the United States, was addressed. In fact, it was not addressed. And in fact, there were nebulous statements at best on how to resolve the problem. And lastly, nothing was stated about severing U.S. citizenship from tax residency, which is the solution to the problem. Voila.
Wow.
That's my thought.
Keith, I noticed a somber tone to your voice. There's sadness, isn't there? John, you watched it and didn't you live tweet it? You live tweeted this event, didn't you?
Oh my God, which means I've actually been through it twice. But first, Anthony, I've got to say, I loved your opening description of this. And what it reminded me of was the movie and the book, The Hunger Games, where, if anybody's seen that, where we have, these two long-term stalwart Democrats having to fight it out to the death in this arena, with possibly candidate Patel coming in to allow each of them to survive to move on to another life or something like that. That was beautiful imaging, Anthony. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. Well, you know what? I will claim that I was busy. You two sacrifice the ultimate. You guys participate, or you guys watch this. And I think that, and I could tell from the press releases that this would probably not work out. So why don't we get into the heart of it, I guess, before we go too far. So here was, now look, this thing was promoted as something where Americans overseas can talk about various issues that affect them, including probably the one that I would say affects everyone the most negatively, that is our taxation and bank reporting. So did we get anything good? Why don't you start us off at the top? How did it start off?
Well, while I'm busy thinking of movies this morning, you're prompting me to think of movies. I'm thinking to the old Clint Eastwood, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The good was that it took place at all. All right. And I think that, Democrats' broad tax force, who I presume was the driving force in organizing that, deserves a huge shout out for, making that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the good. The bad, I suppose, would be that, certainly less than 50% of the discussion had to do with the taxation issue. And at no time was the issue even defined, which is the existence of citizenship taxation, or to put another way, the need to sever citizenship from tax residency. The ugly, and I mean the truly ugly, was the unwillingness of any of the candidates to embrace, a real commitment to any sort of a substantive change. I mean, there was a lot of discussion of, particularly from Representative Maloney, about the bills which have been introduced into Congress, and we've talked about these, of course, the Overseas Financial Services, 5799, 5800, and this sort of stuff. And, the thing about these is that, they all presume the continued existence of the citizenship taxation regime, which is, what the real problem is. And what I can't figure out is why, individuals and groups will not clearly state what's needed to solve the problem, which is severing, it's like they want to talk about anything but that. And finally, and this perhaps may be the most important lesson from this, is that, because we sort of, live in this space, understand this issue, I think, about as well as anybody. But it's very, very clear to me that these candidates don't understand the issue at all. And I'm not, saying that in a negative sense. I mean, I think that's just simply either the fact, or as I might say, the FATCA of the matter. And it is clear that a tremendous amount of energy and organization needs somehow to go into an education campaign to teach them what this stuff really is about. And, that's not happening, is it?
Well, usually at this point, Keith likes to play devil's advocate, but it's going to be me. I'm going to do it this time. Keith, I'm going to follow your example. What do you mean, John? We have 3 bills currently in front of Congress that Representative Maloney, along with Representative Nadler, are both sponsors of. We have one, Tax Simplification for Americans Abroad Act. What's wrong with you? That sounds great. We have House Resolution 5799, Overseas Americans Financial Access Act. Access is great, John. And third, we have the Commission on Americans Living Abroad Act of 2021, which maybe will get updated to 2022 if it gets passed or whatever it is. Clearly, that's another one. I mean, you know what? I don't know what's wrong with you, John. Jerry Nadler and Carolyn Maloney are working so much, and you just can't be happy with what they're doing. What is wrong with you?
Well, I think it's kind of like this, okay? The people who think this is all good have read the titles to the bills, and I've read the bills. And
big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it actually is a big difference. Now, I'm not saying, by the way, for the record, that I think the introduction of these bills is a bad thing. I'm not saying that I think that they have no benefit. But what I am saying is that whatever benefit they may have is watered down without making it clear that they're not a solution, and that the only solution is the severance of citizenship from tax residency. Now, the problem with these is they either don't address the issue at all, or just some sort of a Band-Aid solution. I mean, let's begin with the Americans Overseas Financial Whatever Act.
Yeah, let me just introduce that. We did discuss each of these bills in detail on previous episode in detail. So we're going to give a nice overview of why they just go. So go ahead, John. What's wrong with 6057 Tax Simplification for Americans Abroad Act?
Well, what's wrong with it is, that it actually reinforces the continued existence of citizenship taxation.
That's right. And we went into great detail how it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's an attempt to, it purports to make compliance sort of easier. I don't know that it does, but let's assume that it does. It does for only a certain group of people at a certain stage in their life for a certain period of time. And it seems to me, okay, that just being able to determine whether you're eligible for it may involve doing roughly the same amount of work that's being done today.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I would say, and the analogy that I would apply in this case is essentially what it's doing, and to create a simpler code is creates a parallel system of inquiry. So it's sort of like running an alternative minimum tax on top of your regular return and claiming that you're simplifying things. You're not. You're not.
No, it adds a layer of complexity.
Absolutely.
In fact.
Yeah.
It relies on aspects of the definition of the foreign earned income exclusion, which clearly exists in the context of the world of citizenship taxation. The bottom line is, and I think this needs to be understood, that even if this does help some people some of the time at certain times in their lives, it retains citizenship taxation. It presumes its continued existence.
Right.
And it is not a solution to this problem.
All right.
Now,
All right. So 6057 doesn't sound great, but we still got 5799 Overseas American Financial Access Act. Access. Come on. What's wrong now? Wait. Some people call this FATCA's SCE. Well, what do you mean by that?
Same country exception. Yeah, that's what some people call it. Yes.
So what's wrong with this, Keith? What's wrong with that?
Well, the devil's in. I'll just speak, and then John. Devil's in the details. So, from my perspective, and I've done my due diligence on this, I have talked to key banking executives and banking authorities in key countries, if you will, specifically in Europe, to just say, okay, well, if you have somebody who's living in country, let's say in France, and to prove that they're living in France, then there's no FATCA reporting. All have that, with the except of one bank in Sweden. All of them have said that does not solve the problem. Where the banks are very fearful is that 30% withholding penalty, number one. Number two, it adds another layer of complexity to the FATCA situation. And they have emphatically said it does not solve the problem. Last point, I feel that this FATCA same country exception has been thought of within the confines of the American bubble. And the people who support it have not gone out and spoken to the banking authorities as I have. So voila, that is my position.
Oh, man. So it doesn't sound like it's a winner in your case. Now, here's how the FATCA same country exception works. And those of us who would follow the channel, you know this, but if you're new, this is where it's at. That, our point was like FATCA needs to be repealed entirely. FATCA needs to be repealed entirely. Carolyn Maloney back in 2017 says, no. What we can do is we can offer a same country exception so that people overseas, so the bank account, certain bank accounts in certain things in the country that they're living in will be exempted, but certain things won't be. So, so all you're doing is, again, creating an additional level of complexity to see what you don't need to put on your 8938. Would it not be better not to have an 8938 to begin with, especially in light of the fact that any of the information, and this is a tough subject of a previous podcast, all the FATCA information that the IRS gets is completely unusable. Completely. Right,
as Commissioner Reagan said in a hearing a couple months ago.
So Carolyn Maloney and Jerry Nadler are fighting for the right for the government to collect data that they can't possibly use, and we're getting rid of that, but rather creating an exception so that the government can still get stuff it can't use. Well, all right. So we're 2 out of 3 so far, but number 3.
John,
what do you have to say? John, what do you have to say?
Country.
Just very
quickly, have to say on the same country. Yeah.
Very quickly on the Maloney Financial Access Act. So continuing, Keith is making the point that it wouldn't be acceptable to foreign financial institutions. I suspect that's true. But if we focus on the content of it, leaving aside, let's imagine it were acceptable to them. The first point is that it applies only to what are called depository accounts. That's your day-to-day bank account. It does not apply to the investment accounts that are the real issue, number one. And the second thing that I find very interesting about it is that it really doesn't add anything to what's already in the existing FATCA IGAs, because FATCA IGAs already have a carve out for depository accounts up to $50,000. So maybe it allows somebody to have a bank account to pay their day-to-day expenses with a balance that exceeds $50,000. But, to try to pass this off as any significant move forward at all is completely Orwellian. And it reminds me, what's that one, Freedom and Slavery or something from 1984? I mean, it's ridiculous.
And the last point I got to say is, and this is where it boggles my mind, one can't be for residency-based taxation, real residency-based taxation, and be for FATCA same country exception. It doesn't go together.
No.
You see what I mean?
No, and
it does not go together at all.
The problem with residency-based taxation is it gets rid of too many problems. And problems are what Washington, D.C. runs on. The Washington, D.C. created problems is the fuel of Washington, D.C. That's what powers them. All their mistakes, they harness that energy to give themselves more power. So we have some hope left. We do have some hope left. We have House Resolution 5800, Commission on Americans Living Abroad Act of 2021. Here's the one. I got a great feeling about this one. It's going to come and it's going to fix. It's a commission. Keith, please tell me this one's got something good in it.
Well, it's a beautiful title.
Isn't it?
It's gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous. Yes. But again, the devil's in the details or lack of details. Yeah. And when you take a look at this bill, there's nothing mentioned about taxation at all. It's like having a commission on breast cancer and not talking about breast cancer.
I'm just talking about.
And so I had to read it twice just to see if I missed something. It doesn't talk about taxation. So I'm actually, I don't know, I'll gobsmacked on what the purpose of this commission is supposed to do.
To talk about, I don't know. Right. I guess, what is it going to talk about? Where to live? Give travel tips? Best hotel deals? What is
the best thing about the bill is the title. That's all I can say.
Yeah. What is the Commission on Americans Living Abroad? What are they going to do?
Well, they're going to talk about, being able to pass citizenship on to their children. And they're going to talk about FBAR. FBAR is listed. Okay, whether.
Okay.
They're going to talk about FATCA in the context of access to bank accounts.
Okay.
These are the mandatory topics of discussion. I mean, in trying to be as fair and gracious to the people who put this together as possible, I would say that there's a general provision that this commission is established to address the problems of Americans abroad. That in itself seems general enough to include this. But then the next paragraph or section, they say, and here are the mandatory topics of discussion. You would think that citizenship taxation would be at the top of the list, but it's not on the list anywhere. Right. And this is extraordinary, for a number of reasons. The first is that, again, these three bills do, I think, presume the continued existence of citizenship taxation. But on another level, and this is reinforced by watching the Q&A last week with Representatives Maloney and Nadler and Patel. It is very clear to me they do not understand the issues, right? And I'm not dumping on them. I mean, we all know this is a very hard thing to understand, but they really don't understand the issues. And so what they're doing is they're proposing these bills without understanding the issues. And because of the title, you've got all these people and organizations saying, wow, this is great. Now, to be clear, obviously, it would be a good thing for there to be a commission on the issues of Americans abroad, obviously. However, it does seem to me that the commission must be premised on the tax problems.
Yeah.
Okay. And the issue of citizenship taxation. And those who support this, I think also should not be just blindly supporting, because they could easily make this worse by saying, what do you mean we address your issues, blah, blah, blah. They need to be saying, thanks for opening the discussion. Much appreciated. But please understand our position, and we're ready, willing, and able to provide education on this, that the only way to solve all these problems is to sever citizenship from tax residency. And we welcome your engagement in that discussion, right? It seems to me that that's what needs to happen here.
That is such a great point. You're absolutely right. We need to focus that citizenship and tax residency need absolute. There's no other fix but fixing the fix. You fix the thing that's wrong. You don't try to fix the result of the thing that you try to fix. No. Fix the thing that's the problem.
Bingo.
No, get that going. Boom. Now all of this stuff goes away. And now I would say, look, we have, there's people who are opposed to ending that. And I think that now, John, you watched it. Of the three candidates, do you think any of them would be in favor of severing citizenship from tax residency? Did any of them sound like it? Did anyone even have a clue that there's such a thing?
Well, these are just my thoughts based on what I saw. And I don't obviously know these people personally, but I would have to say that in the case of Maloney and Nadler, there is no chance that they would support severing citizenship from tax residency. They would, I think, particularly in the case of Nadler. That is his name, right? Nadler?
Nadler,
yes, Jerry Nadler.
Jerry Nadler.
Okay, Jerry Nadler. In the case of Jerry Nadler, I get the sense that he might be willing, that he'd listen more and would perhaps be amenable to making citizenship taxation work better, right? I mean, he made some comments to the effect that, he thought guilty in the expatriation tax and that were incorrect. Now, the more interesting one is Patel, who, I've been thinking about this the last couple of days, and I'm going to give an opinion here, all right, and some advice, and that would be to vote for Patel. All right. Now, I don't think that at the present time, Patel has even a clue how this works. In his introduction, he gave the impression of having lived overseas, whatever. Maybe he has, but the only thing that's clear is that he did a master's degree at Cambridge University in the UK, according to his website, which does not qualify as living overseas, in my view.
No,
okay?
Right. No.
However, all right, he did in his, he at the present time, he's confusing worldwide taxation, right? In other words, what are tax residents of a country taxed on with who's a tax resident of a country, right? Tax resident. He's confusing those things. But if it comes down to a question of who's best positioned to learn and understand the issues, I think I'd probably give it to Patel. There are, he did make the point of, knowing a lot of people outside the United States, whether, these are good facts. And he's a younger guy. And I think, obviously by definition, more idealistic.
Gentlemen, I don't know if you recall, but as I mentioned to you, he actually responded back to me in a tweet on Friday that he said he supports a territorial taxation type system.
Well, okay. Yeah,
Now, he did say that, so that's actually a good thing.
Oh, it's good. It's good in the sense that he at least thinks about the limitations of U.S. taxation. But territorial taxation just means the U.S. taxes activity in the United States. It has nothing to do with definitions of tax residency.
Oh, I know. I get it. But it just shows a certain openness and willingness to understand.
Well,
that's
guys,
what I'm looking at.
I do want to stick to our time, so I do want to wrap up here because we have some. And I would say this too: there's no chance that in the world that Nadler or Maloney would do anything the establishment doesn't want. They are the enemy.
The
They are the one. Patel has
the
a
establishment.
chance. They are the establishment. They
Yeah.
are the people who created this. They're only lying to you about fixing their own thing they made up. They don't want to get rid of their baby. Now, what I'm going to suggest is, like, if you're a Democrat, I would go for Patel. There's a hope. There's hope there. There is no way with Nadler or Maloney. And by the way, don't worry about them. I'm sure they'll get admitted. They'll become ambassadors somewhere on their retirement. I'm sure they'll get some golden handshake on their way out if you vote for them. So with that, I want to say goodbye, but I want to tell you about what we're going to be talking about next week.
Actually, before we
go ahead.
Goodbye. I'd like to ask the two of you a question, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And I've been watching this discussion unfold on Twitter and other places.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a group of people who are out there saying, what's not to like about these bills? This is great. If you don't support these bills, hook, line, and sinker, you're somehow the enemy of progress. And let's not let the perfect be the enemy of getting something done. Right. I would be very interested to hear the two of you respond to that.
I don't even know. Yeah. Go ahead.
My response is this: like you, John, and you longer than I have. I've been at this for 12 plus years, and I talk with Americans overseas, short-term, long-term, permanent, whatever, accidental Americans around the world. I've heard their problems. I've heard their fears, and this is not hyperbole. And the bottom line is, none of these bills solves their problems. Full stop.
So, Keith,
I know this for a fact. So,
does this discussion continue to proceed on the basis that these things are a great move forward? Is it that this is great, we've got some possible attention from Congress?
That part's good.
All it is, or like, what is it? Or Anthony, help me with this. I'm having a terrible time understanding.
Yeah, and I would say this. Your question made me think of something. Is how did we let them off the hook? How did we let them off the hook? Nadler and Maloney are responsible for everything bad. Yeah. I have a client in her district penalized millions of dollars.
But
because
gentlemen,
of this nonsense. I have clients in their districts who have given up their citizenship. How could you not consider yourself the utmost failure? And is this not the biggest distraction? You completely failed, and you're saying, "Oh no, it's great." You're ignoring reality. You have to ignore reality. You have to have a superficial, partisan rah-rah, and you just have to hate yourself. I think you have to hate yourself.
Well, wait a minute, Anthony and John. Maybe I'm being too gracious and too generous, but I really believe that part of it is that, whether it be Maloney, Nadler, or anybody else, they are being fed incorrect and incomplete information. So they don't know what they don't know.
And they have no interest, but they have no interest in learning correct information.
Maybe so, but they don't know that they're learning incorrect information.
Oh, sure. Well, they don't care that they don't know.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that if you're being fed incorrect information, you don't know that it's incorrect to even search for correct information. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. I mean, if I sat down with them and told them exactly what has gone on globally with the population about which I spoke, that would be correct reality on the ground information.
But they don't want to know that.
They're not getting it.
They don't want to know it.
I think we're probably saying
shut up
the end result
is you are a worldwide tax slave. Shut up and enjoy it. That's where we're at. All right, we got to go, guys. Thank you so much. What an awesome. I want to give a shout out to Terry and Patrick. Keith, you ran into them. They're huge fans of the show. Terry and Patrick in Australia. Thanks so much for watching.
Australia.
Australia. What did I say there? Austria. I did that. No way. I did that on purpose. I didn't do it I usually make that joke on purpose. Oh my God, it happened. Okay, I didn't. And next week we're going to have episode 6. We're going to discuss a statutory fix that could change the globalized U.S. tax debt system. And after the following week, we're going to go over a regulatory fix that might have a little bit of a better chance. So join us then. Please leave your comments below. And I guess our final advice is to, if you're a Democrat, to vote for Patel. And again, thanks for watching. For John Richardson and Keith Redmond, this is Anthony Parent of IRSMedic. Thanks again.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.